it's Thessia, everyone. So today's hyperlapse all about setting up some networks for today's episode, which is very much going to be about giving Sentinel a place for its service areas to lie. We need power and water treatment, and plus I want to see if we can do some fun messing about with Avanya's industrial evolution stuff with the workshop. So should be quite a lot of fun. Let's see what we can do with this, shall we? So we're going to get started out straight away here by grabbing that industrial road again, and we want to bring this up and behind our Japanese garbage disposal plant, which has been a real divisive one as well ever since I asked you guys, you know, should this be here in Sentinel? A lot of people on board with it because it kind of gives like a landmark to the town. Others not so much because it is quite a bold asset itself, isn't it? The waste disposal unit. What's it actually called? Is that what it is actually called? Yes, it is waste disposal unit. But a wonderful asset from the Japanese content creator pack, if you're wondering. It has a very nice angle from pretty much anywhere in the town, doesn't it? It's a satisfying asset place on that one, I think. So we're going to have it there anyway. Cool. So we've got these stuff in here, and of course we've got this slightly elevated rail yard here as well. Now it's a little bit higher than the rest of the town, so come the detail in town, that's when we get a bunch of the train props on this. It's going to look pretty cool, I think. Cool, so first of all, let's start addressing our services. I want this industrial road to mostly wrap up the waste disposal unit. Something like that, and then once I know I've got my frames wrapped around the back of the building, I can bring them out to start creating some more shapes we can work with. I always love a bit of node controller on these sorts of junctions, makes them look much more important, doesn't it? I think we'll also stretch our blue friend and our red friend out a little bit as well. And then same things on here. Squares, remove the markings, a little bit of master offset, and everyone's much happier with these junctions, aren't they? Fabulous. Wonderful. Cool, so let's address the first one, which is definitely going to be water treatment. We're not playing with any major water treatment assets off the workshop like we did in Ilos. I think we're just going to make do with a couple of the advanced water treatment stuff. So we'll have that here, and how much is that going to satisfy our sewage demand for? Let the game play and register that it is actually here. There we go, it's instantly jumped up, hasn't it? How are our budgets for water? We shouldn't need to change them. The power budget could do with coming down. And we do need to actually place power. So, solar updraft could be a shout. Let's just place this in. It might partner well with the waste disposal unit. I think we're going to have to see. No. Absolutely not. No, thank you. That's not going here. We'll have to pick another one. I think we'll probably go in that case then with solar panels could be a good one, or we could also get away with the advanced coal power plant and kind of fuse it onto the waste disposal unit. They are very similar assets, aren't they? Maybe we could get away with that in that case then. So it's either going to be the coal power plant, or I'm thinking we might be able to get away with fusing some geothermals onto the back of the waste processing disposal unit and almost extend the asset out. We are playing with some terrain here as well, but that's okay. We can work around that. Okay, I don't think I particularly hate that aesthetic, and because we're actually digging into the terrain there, I think we can probably use it to our advantage up against the road that's kind of running out of the area again. Might get some nice rock wall detail up along there perhaps, or we'll see what develops. And let's actually grab and move it as well and grab every single asset, and we'll all set it to the same height, so there's no indiscrepancies. And then we can just wrap our roads around the edge of these again. Put them down the front and around the back. Plenty of service painter and industrial prop detail around this will probably help it fit in a little easier, but I don't think I'm going to hate the industrial fusing of some geothermals onto the back of the waste disposal unit, which I know does produce power within itself, but we're at least future-proofing ourselves here, I think, aren't we? Yeah, fair amount, which is good. So lots of power, and we can definitely bring that power budget down now. Easily down to 50%, if not, or 100%, if not a little bit less. How are we doing now? Yeah, still way more, which is good. Cool. So we can probably actually turn a few of these off and just save the upkeep, and then kick them in when we want, and we'll obviously remove the coal power plant now too. How does that affect us? Yeah, cool. So we've got another geothermal ready to turn on when we need it, and then we can complete that sort of little industrial complex area. With some detailing on the time lapse, of course, but a couple of geothermals on the back of the waste disposal unit definitely don't feel wrong, do they? Also, big shout out to Higher Primate in our Discord. He used some of the plazas and promenades decals over here in his follow-along build for Thessia, and I've taken inspiration to use some of the pink decals through the tram stop in the middle here. Really great use of those plazas and promenades decals. Big shout out to Higher Primate in the Discord for that. Very inspirational. Cool. But we're going to enjoy that, right? That's sort of one power unit done at least. So now let's have a little look at our water treatment. So we've actually got quite a lot of it now, but I'd rather place more than one. So I think again in that case, it feels like it's going to be a good point to duplicate these up and then turn one of them off as for when we need it. So we'll go ahead and get this. It's always fun doing these service areas, you know. I feel like a lot of the time we can just place our service assets and move on with more interesting builds like, you know, campuses or container ports, but sometimes it's nice to come back to the basics and just piece together some fun builds like this. I'm actually wondering, this is vanilla industrial prop fence, isn't it? So if we bob this, we can probably find that exact industrial fence. There it is. And do we actually want to remove the fences off of them? I think we do. And then in that case, we can just build our own fence around it and kind of expand the internal infrastructure, if you like, between the water treatment stuff. So let's move this up here. I kind of want this stuff to be visible as well from the town centre. I'm not too sure if they're a little bit low. Yeah, you can sort of tell that they're there. They're not nearly as prominent as the waste disposal unit, of course, but they'll do a job. Cool. So, of course, the train stations are still bugged at the minute, which is enormously bloody irritating, let me tell you. Really want to see trains moving back and two here, please. I mean, at least they are, right? We've also extended the lines down here too, so the rail, the cargo can actually carry on passing through this area, although I have just realised I've used the wrong rail for that. I thought we crashed then. That was a very long autosave, goodness me. Cool, yes, so as we upgrade this one to have the power lines back over it. So we'll prepare cargo, passenger and arterial connections to run into the next town, which I think is going to lie over here and will be our vineyard town. We're going to cover a lot of the mountain here in Grapevines, which should be quite a fun and unique farming build, I think. Big shout out to the ore texture in this theme as well. It really dries out the grass, doesn't it? It makes it look a lot more industrial, quite appropriate for today's build, I think. Into that one, and then we'll straighten off any angles to be like that. Cool, so again, that gives us another sort of yard there, doesn't it? Let's go ahead and fill that in. I reckon we could probably partner this with another industrial asset as well, if not actually start playing with some of Avanya's Industrial Evolution fusing for the first time, which I'm quite excited to do. We haven't really tried that yet, apart from in the everything new in video very briefly. So again, the terrain is a little bit lumpy here at the bottom of the mountain, which is okay. I don't mind a little bit of terrain, but definitely I want each area to be on the sort of same height, if you like. So let's set this down to the height of the road, and then we'll just fill in that concrete area that's a little bit lower down. That should be okay. Cool, so what I want to do with the service industry, at least for Sentinel, maybe elsewhere in Thessia once we get there, is to start playing with some of this fusing stuff. So let's use some of the cracked service road to help create this vibe. So I bring this up here, and then let's just run a nice simple straight road behind. We'll see what happens. Again, we're having to mess about with those nodes, but that's okay. There we go. And now let's have a look at some of the industrial evolution stuff. So there's a couple of older looking buildings and different sort of styles and themes we can take them in. I don't think I want the red brick particularly here. Maybe in an older part of the industrial area we can have that, or maybe up against the rail line might be quite appropriate. But I think for the sewage plant I'd rather use some of these more cuter modern looking warehouses, I think. So we'll place one. Now this one's got like a little delivery bay lip on it, hasn't it? And then we'll also grab maybe one of these with the funny roofs on them. Sounds like it's going to be a good shout. So now I just want to use Move It and a little bit of clever building spawn point to work as well today. To essentially create like an admin building, maybe where deliveries for tools or resources are taken for the sewage plant here. So we'll have this as our main building, and then we're going to spin the Williams one around so we can enjoy that little sort of distribution building that it has on the back of it to look something like that, I think. It's a pretty seamless fusing there, isn't it? We're also getting prop detailing at the back as well, just due to positioning, which is nice. And then these here, why don't we create like a little alleyway now that sort of goes through the sewage plant, of course, where workers would go and whatnot. and then we'll stick 2 of these back to back so we get that fun sort of mirrored roof pattern with the triangles that are on them to create something that looks like that basically. And they're going to fit quite nicely in next door to the sewage plant as well, aren't they? Let's go ahead and find some more. There's just endless variation, and like, just thank you, Vanya, for putting together easily one of the best content creator packs, I think, this one. Cool, so let's go for a few of these. We can place these really without even needing to fuse them. They will just go in rather nicely together, I think. And then I think what we'll do here is bring up that service road again, then do some poorly maintained parking for 8 units. Actually, how long was that one? That was 4 units, wasn't it? Let's do that then, and then we'll drag it across to create something like that. And then we'll use one final building, maybe this one here as a bit of a head office, maybe, an arrivals point. Fabulous, that's absolutely perfect for me. We could also squeeze in one more asset here and make it look like it's one giant cohesive building, which might not be the worst thing in the world. If we were to just clip through those props and align it upwards to the edge of that asset, and then same with this one. Let's see if we can bring that just onto the edge of those windows. Something like that. Awesome, so now that's going to give us a much more detailed kind of corner unit coming around here. Is multiple doors into the facility. A couple of these little sort of delivery bay looking things as well. I think I'm going to be on board with that idea in general. And there's plenty of room for prop detailing and decals at the back, of course. So do we want to actually close you guys off? I don't think we do. I think we'll breathe them to 5 meter offsets, I think. And then we can have some car parking directly out front of the building. But workers, HR people to arrive, etc., whatever sort of justification we need, I think we'll go for some angled parking here. Open out the front, and we should also have one of these so we can place in a disabled spot on the end, hopefully. Something like that. Cool. So now we can have some parking, and that's kind of the point of what I want to do today. Is there's lots of little facilities that are all serviced towards serving service industry. Look at this, man. Absolute idiots. I'm going to have to turn off despawning temporarily here. Yes, we want to go for despawning enabled, so that way the idiots won't get stuck in here, or at least they'll not get stuck as often, and I'll have to delete some of them occasionally. But yes, it's looking like we will have to do a little bit of waiting until that is patched, which is kind of annoying because Thessia's got such strong train infrastructure. It's kind of irritating to see it choked a little bit by a bug, but we'll just have to bear with it. There's not a lot we can do. But I do enjoy the trains coming into the rail yard there. That is very satisfying, isn't it? Yeah, a few of them are making it out, at least. Yeah, definitely despawning, that's the issue, isn't it? Oh well, at least we can see the aesthetic of trains coming in and out anyway. Cool, yes, so you're all whinging, which is fine. We do have actually quite a bit of high residential demand. And I think I wanted to fill out some more residences over this way, but I really wanted this to be an episode for Sentinel because we've got beach to work on here as well. So I think what we will do here, just because we've got quite a few worker demands across the town now, even though we're playing modded, so it doesn't really matter. But let's just time-lapse up some suburban placements in these corners here that I wanted to sit opposite the university from last episode. And I might stick in some high density in here, but we'll time-lapse this up so we can get some workers in, and then we'll be right back. is very fun watching trains leave Sentinel. It's really, really satisfying. A quick note here as well. Probably during our first live stream, we're going to upgrade this road system here into a dual carriageway. So 2 separate 2-lane one-way roads. And then I want to create sort of a mini interchange slip ramp system that brings the road on this side of the rail to run parallel with it, essentially as a Sentinel bypass road. So if you want to go over to the next town or eventually the capital city, then you can just take the bypass rather than having to go through Sentinel to get back out of it. So we'll do a fun road network project over there. But either way, forested up and placed in a mix and match of workshop and vanilla houses. This guy here also had a driveway, so dropped in a vanilla concrete brush, so it actually made sense for him. But yeah, just it kind of crawls up the hill as well. You can tell the height. So we have managed to bring in a little bit of population this episode, which is good. But either way, let's return over to the industrial area. So this is all starting to go up now. Trains are coming and going. There's one thing I wanted to try actually with the new train warehouse that we got. So let's come into our industry stuff. And I want to grab the warehouse with rail connection. So let's see where you're best served. So your positioning is there, and then your back end is at this side. Oh yes, cargo trains coming in. I love that. So especially once you've got the train cars here as well, it's detailed. This will be really cool. It'll look even cooler as well once the cargo trains start coming through the rail yard as they go out towards the next town over there. But yes, with this here, when we first got this in vanilla, I was a little bit disappointed at the fact that the rail coming out of the yard is on an angle. It makes it ever so slightly more awkward to use. So we're going to grab network multi-tool, and then we're going to unlock the segment. And then can we delete that? We can. And then if we grabbed this bit of rail line here, we can hopefully come straight back out and even form a rail crossing. Oh yes, we can. That's so much better, isn't it? Really is. So much nicer. Cool, so let's delete those for right now and decide where we want this to go. So of course it's missing its connection, we will give it that road connection. I'm thinking if we can maybe align it here, we can get some kind of cool rail yard vibes going hopefully. So we're going to use the one that we've network skinned so we don't have the power lines on it. And then just come straight out and hopefully a happy curve here on the road guideline won't upset the train police. And we can get some smaller, more cute rail yard detailing going on here. It's obviously quite a low speed line, but it will allow us to store goods via rail. And then if I was to relock that segment, are you okay? It's giving me 2 disconnected warnings though, which is leading me to believe that that might not actually work. It is a real shame if it doesn't. No, it does work, yeah, they both went away. Fabulous. Okay then, so in that case then, please store commercial zone goods. And we'll see what happens with that. But much better use of that train warehouse, right? That's so much nicer. I really prefer that. I wish it was like that in the actual game. It's kind of weird how it goes off on that angle. Makes it so much more awkward to use. Yeah, screaming for workers, it's fine. I know we have residential demand. We'll definitely do this part of the town next episode. We need big residences in, a little bit of high density maybe as well. Some towers. I'd also be interested in the Aussies' opinions on the towers. I'm thinking we'll probably go for a few of these tower blocks knocking around. I have seen a few of these, specifically in Melbourne, these towers here. But just kind of general block tower accommodation is what I'm after. Probably something like that. Maybe knock it back into this space here, make a bit of high density zoning, some parks. We might do that in the time lapse because we really do need population. He says as he's recording an industrial episode. But this is what he wanted to do today. But so far the facility is coming together. It could do with sort of one bit of chungus, I guess, and I think maybe a unique factory might be best suited for that. So we're currently producing farm crops and oil materials. We've got the bakery down already. Oh, I forgot we also have the forestry area, don't we? So the only thing we're missing right now is ore. So we could do pretty much any of these apart from the lemonade, because obviously they need metal and glass. But we could do the clothing factory. Wants plastic, crops and animal products, all of which we're producing in the city currently. Petroleum refinery is way too big. Okay, I think maybe the clothing factory. Let's place this in and see what we think, because this is a fairly substantial asset, I think, isn't it? It's kind of the perfect addition, isn't it? Especially as we look at it from the town centre here. It's just a nice little low-lying building that really doesn't take away from the prominence of the garbage disposal unit. So I think I can get on board with that. I'm very eager to see a train come into my warehouse yard, and that would be just the best, let me tell you. We'll hope that that comes to fruition. We'll have to wait and see. Might even be tempted to get 2 of these in, you know. Now that I'm seeing the aesthetic, maybe 2 small lines that come out of the main cargo station for storage might be appreciated. No, but either way, let's actually focus on the clothing facility. So I don't just want it on the main road. Let's go ahead and use some of that cracked service road again for the car parks. And we'll give a little bit of sort of detailing room, I think, here. Just move quite a bit of ways right now. We'll worry about you in a second. And then let's come off our guideline and we'll go for 6 units. That should be okay, I think. And then we do just want to grab actually all the nodes and buildings within this new frame and just tell everyone to come down to the height of the road here. Cool. So we can get some detailing and also some car parking up there as well. And let's make sure these nodes are all the same. Otherwise it's going to look a little bit weird as people drive in. So yeah, we'll expose the logo of the factory out to the estate. You imagine that's definitely what they would do. And then we can do some possible car parking action for visitors and workers and whatnot. Let's do 10 and then we'll go up by 3. We'll change this with node controller into a bend, and then we want to scroll that offset back so it squares off. We'll go ahead and surface paint a bunch of this road up here, something like that, and then we'll use the concrete brush to tidy up the edge where it's a little bit rough and ready with the surface painter. So put it on an angle that we like, something like that should do. Cool, and then maybe we can find a nice little sort of choice tree decoration here. Doesn't have to be anything overly fancy. Maybe just a little bit of single prop line tool. What tree is that? London tree, I suppose. Or sitting at the front like that. Cool, gives a bit more purpose to the factory now, doesn't it? Rather than just sitting on its own. Which should be okay. And then we will ask you to come down to the same height as there as well. Cool, so don't mind that. We've got this big space here as well at the front, which again we'll probably use for parking or probably shipping containers, I imagine, in this sort of industrious delivery cargo yard that's delivering. Well, there we go now. Right now we're starting to see something develop. We've got a little factory, a couple of trees, a bit of green space saved in amongst all the concrete. And it's slowly piecing together, isn't it? It is slowly piecing together. Because we have the factory now, it's definitely giving me the excuse to add in another train rail yard. So crops would be stored in a silo, but you're already getting your crop delivery. So we need to store plastic and animal products. In that case then, I'm tempted to ask this one to store plastic, because plastic is being made in the port over here. Are we storing plastic in any of these? Yes, we are, but neither of them are full. Where are you going? You're delivering oil products to the tank farm, which is fine, I guess. Petroleum, plastic and oil. Okay, so we could also drag maybe the industrial area over from Mokluck Port into the new area today if we wanted to get a little bit more plastic processing. What is the larger plastic processing building? It's the Napha Cracker plant, isn't it? Which is quite a chungus, but will probably work in and amongst our buildings here. I'm just going to test it. It might be a little too industrial because the oil stuff is just has that vibe, doesn't it? It's very sort of lots of smokestacks and grey steel, etc. So we'll just grab an extension. Think of it as like, you know, Mokluck Petrochemicals has a little satellite site just outside of the port in the town maybe. And now we have that extended, we can use that to up our production of plastic because there isn't that much coming out of the port, which is okay. So let's see what we think of this. I think we're going to knock it back up and against our train yard here. Little train warehouse thing. I'm always going to call it a train yard, despite the fact it's not. And then you're not connected now? That's okay. We'll just use more of that cracked service road talking on the front, which gives us a more detailable space out the front for some concrete spaces or parking, whatever we want to do with it. And of course, let's not forget to give everyone a gentle kiss with the node controller. Fabulous. Cool, so he will receive, well, his oil will be imported, of course, because you don't actually have oil fields. All the oil for this is imported, but now oil will come out of the port into the industrial area for it to be processed. Yeah, it's the aesthetic of the red and white smoke towers stack things that make it look very industrial, don't they? But I think we can get away with it, especially once we begin to sort of expand the prop patterns out with Surface Painter and whatnot knocking over here, something like that. Oh, by the way as well, we have fixed this stupid turnaround that was happening at the Banana Egg interchange over by Valkyrie. You may remember we were getting a lot of people doing a stupid U-turn here for basically no apparent reason. We've fixed that now by adding in very temporary turnaround points for the dummy traffic to stop them coming into Valkyrie. These of course are temporary and will absolutely be removed, but just in case you're also having the same problem, it allows the dummy traffic to turn around without clogging up, you know, real interchanges that need to flow and work. So we have fixed that. Kind of stupid that cities runs dummy traffic through the city in the way that it does, but you know, it's a lot smoother now anyway. And of course that big dual carriageway project that we talked about earlier will come down this way and hook into the roundabout, and then eventually around this side too to whatever lies over here, and probably hook back in with the national road. Maybe down here we'll have that happen, another national road interchange, but that is a long way away of course. But otherwise guys, I think we're at a good place for a detailing time lapse. I'm going to add in another train warehouse here, a lot of train yard detailing with our favourite train car props that we've got from the workshop. Of course, use them before in Ilos and in Thessia as well. So yeah, lots of spaces around here to detail with concrete, lots of industrial props, containers, crates, trucks, forklift, distribution centres. Bring a bit of a forest border around the edge of this facility, and then kind of round off these networks ready for expansion, and everyone can hook back in with each other. And hopefully flow quite nicely, and we can all be annoyed by this stupid traffic here. We're getting stuck. That's so irritating. But whatever, right, it's going to look cool. Yes, and then I also want to turn this area here into some like dry, arid land with a bit of fencing around it as well. Well, the people now coming out of the train station at Sentinel. These are all people coming from Valkyrie, by the way. How exciting is that? The Valkyrie trains are so busy. Can we see one of them? I think there's one of them on their way in now, isn't there? I think this is a Valkyrie train. Yes, it is. Yeah, look at that. Train's nice and busy back and to Valkyrie, isn't it? I really do like that. That's incredibly satisfying. Yeah, very good to see. Cool, but either way, stop getting distracted by trains and detail up our service train yard today. And then we'll be right back. Okay guys, let's have a detailing review, shall we? So quick shout out to the slightly embanked train cars here. What a wonderful aesthetic that is, right? You can really see it from all across Sentinel. It's very eye-drawing, and I love the fact that it's bordered up against the Bunnings warehouse from last time as well. So we developed a new Thessia belt. This is just called Dry. I think I need to go to the workshop and get some drier looking grasses. But we have done some natural resource painter here just to help differentiate the texture in the land, as we do head up that very gradual embankment to the rail lines that have now had their train cars placed, of course. And then this one here is an active line and comes down into a second industrial warehouse with a bit of Avanya's stuff knocking about. There's a small fusing going on here. And Avanya's brick industrial evolution stuff has a real kind of... well, it just goes well with trains, doesn't it? There's no other way of saying that. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe a childhood memory, perhaps. And then a few more little industrial units knocking around here. As we came to detail the water treatment area, really didn't like the eco stuff, so ended up switching it out for some of the regular treatment things, both two small and one large, with a little bit of classic industrial prop detail in the middle, including trash, containers and trucks, etc. More of that repeated tree pattern in and around the factory, which I thought worked quite nicely for the industrial area. Didn't want concrete everywhere. And then also dropped in Terry's wonderful billboard of the Mockluck Petrochemicals. Of course, they have a site here, so of course they would be absolutely branding it from their sort of mother site in the cargo harbour. And then down this way we've also added a toll booth into the entrance with an industrial bridge that links back into the arterial that comes back into town, which is actually getting a bit of use. The garbage trucks are using this to get back into to Sentinel rather than going back through the main entrance into the town, which is quite nice. And we've got some parallel rail network prepared and ready to flow down into the next town as and when we need it, of course. And this cargo line here will eventually have another cargo station in the new town before joining back up with the main cargo line over here. And we'll also feed the passenger line through there as well. So they will eventually meet back up with the main line over this side, if you like. And we have some of that classic sort of broken down chain link fencing over here in the entrance, and then also this side as well, with a little bit of broken fence detailing knocking about over this space. With an extended cargo yard from the cargo station that we're using. Of course, ignore the traffic. This is the vanilla bug that is hopefully about to be patched. We will wait and see. Some fence work with overgrowth in and around areas that aren't particularly being used, and then more extended cargo and prop detailing off of the front of the station there too, which is quite nice. Around here, dropped in the sort of railroad prop sign symbol that we got with Railroad of Japan. It's just sort of a cute little industrial looking asset, isn't it? So I thought it might go quite nicely outside the front of the car park that sits in the waste disposal unit. And then over here, trimmed off some surface paint to work with a bit of an overgrown area. And then used some ore fencing and lots of destroyed and trash props that we have in our Thessia collection to try and create kind of like a garbage overflow area. So, you know, if it can't be processed on that day at the waste disposal unit for whatever reason, then there is sort of essentially mini temporary landfill before it's processed in the main building. And we had a nice spot over here for one of the Sunset Harbour processing buildings as well. And then, of course, our geothermals are tethered onto the back of the waste disposal unit as well. I've also dropped in a couple more of Avanya's industrial evolution stuff for these little spaces as well, which fitted in really nicely, didn't it? So it's turned into a really fun service area for Sentinel. They're not used with the most exciting builds, and this one definitely took a little bit of time to come together. But the embanked rail yard and the waste disposal unit are a really nice addition into Sentinel's sort of horizon vista skyline, aren't they? It's a nice way to process some feces, this build. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for today. Let's thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, likes, comments and shares below always do help me out. Even if you haven't enjoyed it, please feel free to leave a dislike as well. Like I mentioned, always better putting together a little custom area for our services. So we've got power, industry and factory goods storage here as well, alongside garbage and wastewater processing. So nice happy service area. It'll keep the city fed for a good while. We won't need to touch one of these things again for a considerable bit, probably until we get to the capital, where we'll build obviously the main container port and probably need to update those services at that point. But that is a long way away. And of course, these train car props are my absolute favourite things. A little mini train yard makes an enormous difference to a industrial build, I think. So we'll definitely have more of them because, of course, Thessia is so heavily based on trains. But otherwise, I'll shut up and leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.